Hi, my name is Alayna Farris, and today I'll be taking you through a behind the scenes on how I drew the logo to Raising Rogers. Now, before I get started, I would love to give a special shout out to Aletheia Legacy and Kara Rogers for allowing me to cooperate with them on this project. The two things I used for this project, I used the Apple Pencil and the iPad Pro, and then the program I used was Procreate. I love using Apple products because I have an Apple phone and they just talk to each other. I can send PDFs really easily, and all of my photos can be transferred back and forth. And then for Procreate, it was the first digital art program that I have actually grown to love and have used a lot. I've used a lot of digital art programs in the past, and none of them really seemed to stick to me, or they just seemed too hard to use. So that was really the first one that gave me the tools that I needed to just progress more. Now, without further ado, let's get started. So you can just see me here starting off with a just basic sketch. I normally just do the circle, the line, and then the reference for the eyes. I decided to draw them in I believe it's called a 3/4 face view, or I may be wrong, I think that's what it's called. But the reference I was given was a front facing. I didn't really like that much. I wanted to change it to this position, and I did struggle with getting the heights right because you can see me just adjusting them every once in a while because it doesn't look right to me. I normally just use a lasso tool and fix them to where I want them, reposition them. It's fairly easy. So my thought process for this right now is to maybe just do an adventuring theme and to maybe do like things coming out of the book or just the background around them to be different and maybe kind of like a forest. That's what I'm probably thought of doing at that moment. I struggle at that hand at the bottom. As you can see, I just decided to hide it. I took it away, and I believe I put it at the bottom of the book, and then I changed that sometimes later. You can see me adding those trees in the background, those flowers. I have a little toucan going on right there, and then I decided to start over. I tried with that hand again, doesn't work. I just deleted it again. And you can just see me fine-tuning this image, getting everything right. You can see me resizing it a little bit, and yeah, I still keep on trying to mess with that hand. And then I decided to cover it with a blanket. So at this point, I decided to kind of readjust my thinking and do more of a bedtime theme because, you know, she has a storybook, she's reading to her children, just kind of like a nighttime theme. So, oh my gosh, I'm still messing with that hand. I like to rewatch these because it's kind of funny to kind of watch, like, what was I doing here, you know? So as you can see right here, I am just coloring it. I do this on separate layers for this specific, I don't know if you call it like an art style. I normally don't draw on this art style, but for this, I do it on separate layers. So the skin will all be on separate layers, the hair, which is normally for most digital art, which is what you will do. But especially for this, you don't want the like the head and the neck to be on one, because when you go back in and shade it later, it's going to be way harder to do as your shading adds more detail because you can't rely on lines. I'm starting on the background and I'm just adding in those stars. I used a blue color to kind of guide me on where I wanted it because white was a bit hard to see. I can change that color in hue. I believe it's like hue and brightness. I can change that color really easily. And you can just see me right here. I'm clicking on and off my line layer so I can see how that looks. I also dimmed down that opacity. As you can see right here, I just started shading. Me turning on and off that layer kind of gave me a guide for where I wanted to put those shadows and where I kind of wanted my lighting to be. Putting those shadows in and like shading the skin really adds detail to this piece because you aren't relying on lines, you're just relying on those solid colors. So right now I'm adding in like little, I wanted to do a theme of like a child drawing on a piece of paper, so you can see some type of doodles and things all around the people. So I restart on the background again because I didn't really like it. They kind of wanted to go with a more daytime theme, and I just started with the logo on the top in a little arch. And then you can see me messing with my layers, especially like the lighting layers. And I mess around with what type of design I want to do, especially the color. I wasn't sure if I wanted to go more of a dark color or more of a light color. I decided not to go with the two of these designs that I do next because I didn't like how the letters were positioned. I didn't think that was right. I'm also adding a kind of watercolor texture to the background, and you can see at this point I add in a bit of color, and that's where I get the idea to do maybe like a stained watercolor color in the back. I then add in some of those details on the sides like the clouds, adding in that arch again. As you can see, I did in the beginning that I erased, and I'm just going back through and repositioning it. You can see that I actually changed the color of the clothing and the color of like the couch and stuff, especially those letters. It didn't work, the color of the clothing. It was too dark for the black background, so I had to go back through all of my layers and just quickly change that. It was fairly easy, but it was a bit hard at the same time because I'd already merged all those together, so I had to just go back through. It was a mess. I actually had that layer turned down, like the opacity, so I had to go back through and redo my background because I couldn't fade it in like I wanted to since it was already faded a little bit. So I had to go back through and just make that whole background a clear, instead of having that white space there, I had to go back through and get rid of that. I add in those little lines there. I'm just fixing in that circle. I had the top layer of my white a bit wrong, and I was thinking maybe put that layer on top instead of on the bottom, and that didn't work, so I had to just go back through and just redo the whole thing. Right here I am animating it. This was my first ever like large scale animation project. I have never animated before. I've done it once maybe, but I don't really know if you would call it that. It was just like a 3 up and down ball that I animated to bounce, and it wasn't really that big. So this was the first time actually having to go through the process of layer by layer by layer and just doing it over and over again. Procreate has a really good animation guide thing. I think it's called Animation Assist, and you can turn that on and you can actually animate your drawings. It's actually pretty cool. It also gives you like options for your onion layers and that stuff. So if you want the opacity on those layers down, an onion layer just kind of lets you see what you did either before or after your layer. So it kind of helps you with getting all that right. Getting those birds right was probably the hardest part of this because you had to animate them going down, but they had like a certain way that you had to fold them. It was kind of hard. I finally get it. It wasn't perfect, but it was, you know, it was a start. I didn't really know what to do with the clouds. I tried to just maybe expand them. I wanted to move them like side to side in like a swaying motion. Didn't get to that. It was a bit too hard because like I was just trying to figure out how it all worked. And you can just see me going through, checking all of it, rewatching it, and just trying to fix those last minute details. And there we are, we're finished. So after I did this, I just sent it over to Aletheia Legacy, and they just took it and put it onto Kara's videos. As you can see, you can probably find them on Aletheia Legacy's channel, but if I were to animate this again, I think I would approach it differently this time because I have worked with animation a bit more now, and I kind of have more of an idea of how those flow, how to flow it better, and how to animate that a bit more smoothly. I just kind of feel like if I had a bit more time or experience working with this, I could have maybe done it better. But for the first time animating in such a long time, or like on a large scale, I think this was a pretty okay attempt for my first time. But if you would like to see more of these videos, comment down below. I may in the future do some more commentary on some of my works, or maybe do more of like Procreate tutorials. Just leave a comment down below on what maybe you would like to see, and don't forget to leave a like. Have a good day. Bye!